as we mentioned yesterday, and I talked a little bit about this during my talk, is we've been on I would say about a 4-year journey at the LGS Foundation. This is actually our second meeting of the minds. And so we started in 2018 with a really extensive survey in our community, modeled after a survey that Dravet had done in their community. And I presented those results yesterday. And then we moved on and had our patient-focused drug development meeting, the externally led one with the FDA. And that was an incredible time. And it resembled a lot the testimonies that you heard yesterday from families, and you'll hear some more today. And that is online if you want to really hear about the lived experience of the disease. And analyzing and looking at that really led us to the hierarchy of needs pyramid that we talked about yesterday. And you know, when you're living in survival and coping mode, I mean, all of us know what that's like because we all experienced the global pandemic. And when we were all sitting in our houses right after COVID hit and wondering if we were ever going to go back to work and if grandma was going to die and if we were ever going to see our family again, that is crisis mode. And so when you put that in the context of our families living in crisis mode pretty much constantly, right? Or coping mode, which is just trying to avoid crisis, right? I think it really hits home at how hard it is to live with LGS and the other developmental and epileptic encephalopathies. And then that led us, you know, to move on to our first meeting of the minds, which was a chance for us to convene scientists and families together for the very first time. And it was funded by a grant that we got from the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, CZI. And this was 2 years ago, and the topic that we focused on was finding disease-modifying therapies in LGS. And there were some really incredible things that came from that. Is it even possible to think about disease-modifying therapies? And the answer is yes. And we just funded a really exciting grant to Ivan Soltej and his grad student, Dr. Jamila Kausi. I'm forgetting his first name right now because I didn't sleep well last night. But they're working on a mouse model of slow spike and wave, and they're treating with focused ultrasound, so a non-invasive way of doing it. And they're looking at, in the mouse model that does have seizures, if focused ultrasound will on the slow spike and wave will make any difference. And so I think it's really exciting to think about that potentially. But then also there's another box of disease modifying therapy when you think about going through regulatory. So I won't get into that. So, and then now we're here. You know, we had our family conference last year, and that's a conference we have every other year where we invite scientists to come into our family world. But this is really our first time where we invited the broader LGS family community to come, and it just makes me so excited to see our families here asking questions and engaging, and you know, realizing that they're the experts in lived experience. It can be intimidating, you know, being in the same room with a bunch of, you know, professionals who do this every day, and the families are engaged and exciting. So I'm really excited about that. I also want to just mention, because I have you guys as a captive audience, that the LGS Foundation does a lot of support work. And so if you look into your books, there's our pamphlet and also our guide to programs. But all of this is in here, our meeting of the minds, our research roundtable at AES. But I also want to tell you, if you know patients, please send them to the LGS Foundation. And the LGS Foundation, we obviously are very focused on LGS, but anybody who's living with really severe seizures might benefit from some of our programs. Like we just started an About LGS treatment kit, which is a really complex and comprehensive binder full of information about surgery, medications, diets, neuromodulation, talking to your doctor. So please, and we have kits for siblings, we have kits for new families that are just learning about LGS and DEs for the first time. So please check this out, go to the QR code, tell your patient families about us, because, you know, damn it, we don't have cures, but we have each other. And the incredible people that you heard speak yesterday and the ones you hear today are the people in our community that are supporting each other. I also just want to recap yesterday a little bit. We had an incredible first session where we talked all about what we are currently doing, how we do clinical trials now, how we think about LGS, what's possible in research, and we had a giant panel. We heard from industry about how they think about things. We heard from families, and we heard these different perspectives. And the goal of this meeting is not to get agreement from everybody. The goal of this meeting is to hear each other's voices and how we think about things. And we have so many entities in the room. We have, you know, we have our industry partners, but even within industry, you've got the patient advocates, you've got, you know, the scientists, you've got the people who are on the side of pushing out the medications and making sure that those get out there. And then you have advocacy groups here, and I just want to give a shout out. I think we have, I might blow this, but I think we have representation from 7 different DEE groups. And I know if Ingo's in here, that's sort of a, it's a way that we all get lumped. It's not the best explanation, but I know we have our good friends here from Tuberous Sclerosis Complex. I know I'm in constant contact with the Dravet folks who have their own meetings this week, but Mary Ann and Veronica are very eager to know how this meeting comes out. We have our friends from the SCN8A Foundation are here, International Foundation for CDKL5 Research, the SDXBP1 community, SYNGAP community, and also the Smith-Kingsmore community, which, where seizures are not a huge piece, but sleep is. So I'm really excited that we work together, and I think everyone in this room knows that everyone has LGS secondary to something else, some etiology. LGS is the syndrome, but you have a cause of your seizures, and about half of LGS is genetic, and the other half is acquired, like hypoxic ischemia and others. And there's hundreds of genes that predispose. So we just love working with our advocacy groups, and are so glad that they're here. We divide on the science, in terms of they're focused much earlier on stopping the seizures before they start, or stopping the neurodevelopment before it starts. But we focus later, but we try to unite on everything else. So. And then at the session 2, we talked a lot about what was being done by these other groups, right, in these other areas, and how can we learn from each of these communities and what's possible. And so we had a great discussion yesterday from that amazing panel. And today we're going to talk about sleep. And we felt it was really important to pull out sleep as a specific topic, because we feel like it is really underappreciated how big of a deal this is in our community. And I was just talking to Dr. Shellhouse, Renee in the back there, and she was telling me, she's like, I hope this goes great. I'm like, I think this might be the first talk on sleep ever. So the bar is super low. Like, I mean, you're just like, just having a conversation about this and planning this meeting was a big deal. And she's working with an incredible group of people. She'll be co-moderating with Geeta Gupta, which I'm super excited about. And I'm not supposed to say this, but she's one of our newest grantees, woohoo, who will be studying sleep in LGS. We don't have a signed contract yet, but we're going to get that, right? Yeah. So we're going to really focus on sleep for the next couple of hours. And then I hope you stick around for the breakout sessions after that, because that's really where I think the meat of this, all of these educational talks that we've had are all going to come together. And it's really a conversation about where do we go from here. And we have 3 breakout sessions. I think all of you have signed up for breakout session 1, which is going to be focused on creating better trials to accurately measure seizures, right? And it doesn't have to always be a trial. It can also be a research study in general, right? So I don't want to just limit it to trials, although that's a big deal. The second one, and that's moderated by Dennis DeLugos. The second one is on how we can better accurately measure LGS-associated comorbidities, or even DEE-associated comorbidities, right? Because I do think we all have the same domains, right? It's just we rank them differently, depending on whether we're dealing with LGS or Dravet or tuberous sclerosis or another type of developmental and epileptic encephalopathy. So, and are they really going to be differently measured across all DEEs? Is LGS really going to be all that different? I mean, that's a great question. And then the third breakout was really something that Pete Crino wanted to focus on, was what are we going to be doing specifically for adults? We need, like sleep, we need to carve out how we're going to be thinking about programs for adults. And people, as our children age, or as our loved ones with LGS age, where are they going? What are they doing? They're not in state hospitals like a lot of the older generation are. They're staying home with us, and we have no idea what to expect. So. And as you go into these breakouts, I'm really hopeful that you'll think about it this way. The goal of this meeting is to guide our strategy for the next, 3 to possibly 5 years, and to listen to what everybody said. But pretend you run the LGS Foundation, and you get to make the decisions on how time and money are spent. And when you go into your breakout, I want you to say, what would you do with that time and money? Right? How would you think about it? And a lot of times you'll hear people say, well, that study's too expensive. Don't think like that. Be bold, be bold. Think about what is possible and what you would do if you ran things and could make things happen. So I'm super excited about that discussion, and then people will come back from the breakouts and report out what we learned, and I think it's going to be really exciting. So I hope you stay for that.